Can you see my screen? So, well, good morning again to everybody, and let's start with the webinar. The name of the webinar is Society in Action, and before starting, we have to have in mind some logistic issues. First, I would like to ask to turn on your microphones and switch off your cameras unless you are going to speak for the speakers. So the webinar is going to be recorded. For those who have registered to the webinar, you will be sent a link with a recording, and please remember to write down your questions in the chat, and at the end of the webinar the questions will be answered. So the agenda for today is for starting, I will give you a very short introduction to the project. Then Barbara from Cabeloce will talk about citizen engagement. After that, we will have a quick view about the energy communities, prosumers concept from Corentin Girard from Valencia Energy Office. And then the third topic will be about right to energy with different speakers. So the webinar will be divided in these three main parts. And at the end, as I have mentioned before, we will have a room for questions and answers. Well, before starting, I would like you to give you a frame about the Lighthouse Projects. We are a group of 18 Lighthouse Projects with near 50 cities, Lighthouse cities, and more than 75 followers. Our project started in 2017 and will finish in 2022. So the consortium is composed by 28 partners from 8 different countries. We have 3 lighthouse cities: Valencia in Spain, Dresden in Germany, and Antalya in Turkey. And apart from that, we have 4 follower cities, a local consortium for each lighthouse cities, and some cross-cutting partners. So the pillars of the project are mainly energy, mobility, ICT, and actions that are named non-technical actions with a high component of social issues. So the first 2 interventions are related to energy, and we have a total of 141 actions. The webinar that we are starting right now is mainly focused on energy and non-technical actions. And that's all from my side, and I would like to give the floor to the first speaker. Barbara will talk about citizen engagement. Please, I would like you to ask for being respectful with the slot of time that you have been assigned. So, Barbara, you can start. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Ernesto. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Thank you so much. Good morning. Thank you, Ernesto. I am Barbara Branchini. I work in the consultant company Cabeloce I+D+I, located in Valencia, Spain. We are leading the citizens engagement actions under the Matchup project in Valencia, together with the municipality of Valencia, Las Naves, and the Fundación Valencia Clima y Energía. I'm very glad to be here today, and I will depict the main elements of our citizen engagement approach, the actions performed so far, and some main conclusions about the actions implemented up to this point. As a company, we are expert in socio-technical processes for innovation based on a co-design approach. Our main assumption is that the engagement of users, and in particular the engagement of citizens in the case of urban innovation and urban transformation processes, is key for the adoption of innovative products and services and for the behavioral change. We understand citizens as, in a broader sense, as citizens, civil society organizations, the academia, the business sector, together with the public administration. We understand engagement as being involved with something, and we understand the citizens' engagement as a two-way interaction between citizens and governments that gives citizens a stake in the decision-making, with the objective of improving project outcomes and empowering citizens. The main challenge that we faced when we started designing the engagement activities and the engagement strategy under the project was that, provided that the project actions were planned in detail, to what extent those actions allow the real participation of citizens in the design and during the implementation. To answer this question and to address this challenge, we structured our engagement strategy following a three-steps process. On the first place, as a first step, we analyzed in depth the project actions with the aim of understanding the type of engagement, the level of participation entailed and allowed by each of the action. Second step, we analyzed in depth the environment, the context where the project actions would take place. In the case of Valencia, this is the coastal district of Poblados Marítimos. We did that through a diagnosis participatory workshop in order to identify the main needs and priorities of the district inhabitants, in order to fine-tune the engagement strategy according to those needs and priorities, and according to also the level of engagement entailed by the actions as mentioned before. Third step, it is important for us to rely on the existing participatory and innovation ecosystem in order to guarantee and ensure the continuity and the sustainability in the medium-long term of the engagement actions and initiatives that we would put in place along the project life cycle. Based on these three steps, we designed the engagement actions, which are actions mainly addressed and aimed to inform citizens about the project actions and how to benefit from them. Actions aimed to and adjust to the awareness raising and the capacity building, the recruitment of potential users and promotion of employment and entrepreneurship, and finally to the creation of synergies and collaborations. In the first place, we developed a local brand for the project, El Maritimi Nova, and the local website in the two main local languages in order to increase and strengthen the identification of the population in the area of intervention and the project itself. The local website hosts information, detailed information about the project actions, a description of the action, many resources explaining better the action features such as videos and interviews with the partners responsible of the deployment of each of the actions. And finally, we linked each action to the key performance indicators dashboard in order to make citizens and users aware about the status of the action and the impact generated by each of them. The website hosts also some dissemination, capacity building, and awareness raising material, such as tips to increase the energy efficiency in the household, or a repository of good practices in the field of intervention of the project, and also interviews to relevant stakeholders in the field and useful information and news about, for instance, available funds for energy efficiency and so on. We are using the engagement actions also to recruit potential users of the project actions, such is like is the case of the smart meters and controllers for building action. We are actually deploying a communication campaign targeted to the district. In the first place, we worked on the identification of potential users, thanks to the support of local actors active in the district, in the area. We also organized the launch event and also developed some information pills based on the videos recorded in the events organized. We are also working in the promotion of employment and entrepreneurships in the field of action of the project and in specific areas related to the project actions. Our initiatives, such as the Match-Up Special Prize, which took place in 2019, are addressed mainly to youngsters and in particular to university students. In our challenge in 2019, we awarded the winning team Veloc, who developed a solution for improving the green mobility, we awarded the team members with a mentoring program provided by the project partners with an expertise related to the technologies and the objectives of the project of the winning team. These are ETRA, WITRAC, ourselves, Fente Studi, and Las Naves. The areas of the mentoring, the mentoring that we provided to the students were related to the new technologies needed for the solution implementation, are related to entrepreneurship, business models, financing and funding opportunities, innovative public procurement, soft skills, co-design and citizens engagement. We are working also to ensure continuity to this initiative, and we are planning to have a further edition in 2021 and in 2022. And as mentioned before, we also actively work to create synergy and alliances in the field of action of the projects and with relevant stakeholders active in the same actions field. As an example, we joined the Open Data Day organized by the Polytechnic University of Valencia, where we presented the open data strategy of the Matchup project, and we also performed some training activities addressed to secondary education students in order to make them aware and familiar with the open data concept and how to use them. We are also collaborating with the Right to Energy group, which will be presented afterwards along the webinar. Actually, within the group, some ideas for further initiatives arose, and one of them, which is a project aimed to study and understand the impact of energy poverty on health, is now starting and received European funding through the Horizon Europe program. Also, through and during the dialogue with the municipal social service initiatives Barris Inclusivos, we identified a problem of isolation of older people in the neighborhood of Nazareth, belonging to the Poblados Maritims district. And to tackle this problem, we designed a project aimed to increase the designers and users' awareness about the public space through the body perception and dance. This initiative received municipal public funding and is currently ongoing. To sum up, our citizen engagement strategies seek the citizens' empowerment, leveraging on local resources and initiatives, new synergies and alliances, and continuously adapting to the real-life changing context. Under this scheme and under this paradigm and approach, we are running activities to inform citizens about the project actions and how to benefit from them. We are working to provide tools for the capacity building and the awareness raising. We are working promoting the employment and entrepreneurships in the fields of energy efficiency and the sustainable mobility. And finally, creating synergies among stakeholders and within the local participatory and innovation ecosystem. Our main goal, and the main goal as mentioned of our engagement activities, is to improve the project outcomes and to empower citizens. Thank you very much. That's all from my side.
Thank you so much, Barbara, for your clear presentation. Now I would like you to move to the next point on the agenda, and we will deal with the prosumers energy communities. And for that, we have with us Corentin Girard from Valencia Clima Energia, who will explain about these energy communities. Please, Corentin.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Ernesto, for inviting us. Thanks, Veronica, for all the support in the organization and the preparation of the webinar. Well, basically, what we wanted to share with you today was some first insight on what we are doing with energy communities in Valencia, and how do we engage with citizens to achieve and to build up these energy communities. Basically, I will try to share 2 points: what we have done before engaging with the citizens, and then how did we engage to build up these energy communities. But let's start with a brief introduction. I'm working for the Valencia Climate and Energy Foundation of the City Council. We have basically the aim of tackling climate change and working for the energy transition of the city. and we work with 2 centers, a climate change observatory for educational purpose with schools, and then the energy office that I will present a bit more in details afterwards. And we engage in different EU 2020 project, life projects related with energy transition and climate. Basically, the main question we could ask at the beginning of the presentation is why we should care as a city council about community energy. That's a good question. Basically, a city, as I guess many of your city, is committed through the covenant of measure to some targets of greenhouse gases reduction, as well to energy efficiency improvement and renewable in the city. And mainly, I think we all agree that we all go in the same line now. We all agree we have to increase renewable and improve efficiency. But the question is remaining is how. And that's where community energy we think is a good tool to do that. The question is not really how much renewable energy, but which kind of renewable energy we want. And in this case, one of the elements is that community energy will be more capable to foster the energy transition with the citizen to achieve faster, bigger results. I don't detail too much on community energy. I'll give you a reference here that is really interesting on a practical guide to energy community. And I will go directly to what we have done in Valencia. As I said before, we did, before engaging with the citizen, a first process to engage with stakeholders. It was very important for us to have a roadmap and to identify barriers and opportunities at the local level. So we did a first project, the Prosumer project, where we engaged with the different companies, NGOs, public authorities that were and academics. And we identified legal administrative barriers, technical, communication barriers, social barriers as well. Well, in fact, the main barriers were neither technical nor economical, because solar panels are quite easy to install now. They are profitable, but we still have a lot of barriers at the legal level and at as well what we call the solar phobia here in Spain. People that were afraid of thinking it was prohibited to install solar panels. So we had to fight these different barriers to remove this barrier to be able to really start working on the energy communities. I'm trying to change. Yes, that's it. To give you a taste of what we have done to remove this barrier, but for instance, on the social side, we opened a one-stop shop for energy transition, or Oficina de la Energía, where everyone can go and ask about energy, any question, and specifically about solar panel and energy community, what it is, how does it work, what can I do. We also did a review of taxes and urbanistic documents to provide some intensive. Here you have a press release where you can read in Spanish that we have a subsidy of 20% of the solar panel through local property taxes. We are as well on the process of removing many urbanistic barriers that were simply just like not adapted to the new context of solar production in the city. We did as well some pilot demonstration in public buildings to show that it is possible to produce renewable energy in the city. Here you have a picture of, I don't know if you see my mouse, you have a picture of an historical building in the city center where everyone was saying that it was impossible to put some solar panel here. Well, it was done, and then it's a way to show that it is possible to produce energy right in the middle of the city of Valencia. We also gained some political support and leadership. The city major is now, let's say, campaigning for the energy community as well. He's making some declaration in a newspaper and really leading the way to make it happen. And we did as well some political lobbying to convince at the national level to remove some other barriers. For instance, there is a limit in Spain of 500 meters to build up your energy community, which is only an administrative barrier that is really complicated for us to manage. You can make it bigger than 500 square meters, which is really not appropriate to our case in Valencia. So we team up with 50 other cities to claim against this law. And then we started to do our process. Basically, we started with 2 pilots that we are still running in Valencia. To make it simple, we have two typology with two types. We have one with a local energy community on a public roof, and another one in a private roof. And going in more details, one is located around the energy office that I was mentioning before. So it's about 20 to 30 kilowatt of peak of potential, and we are aiming for 20-30 households. And we wanted as well to include small shops or SMEs, NGOs of the neighborhood, for instance, the energy office. So here you can see the small map with the area within these 500 meters that we could expect to be the area of the energy community. And we started as well in another pilot with the public cover I was mentioning in a local civic center, with a bit more capacity and aiming for more household as well. And we are already able to give some idea of investment, cost per household, and return period for this investment to engage with the people. It's quite useful to have this kind of metrics. And basically, once we had this first project, we started our communication campaign. So here you have an overview of what we did in terms of communication. We went to the radio, to the press. We did as well some small video. It's in Spanish, but if you are interested and you understand Spanish, to explain very briefly what is an energy community. Then we did some workshops to really explain to the people, starting from what is their energy bill, how they can join this energy transition, and how could they join an energy community. First result of this process was we did a survey to know who was interested, and we had 150 people that registered for the process, the participatory process. And as you can see in the diagram, it's in Spanish, but most of them were neighborhoods from the neighborhood where we wanted to make it, or from other neighborhoods that were people that were interested, and as well some other people interested at the city scale in the process. So what we did during this workshop, we did 3 workshops, and we just first informed the people to explain what is an energy community, how does it work, and then in this case we put on the table, how do you want to make it? Really from the beginning, it was really, we don't want to force the process, to impose a juridical form, for instance. So we explain pros and cons for instance, making a cooperative, making a small company, or making an association. And given the advantage and inconvenience of each solution, people decided, well, in the 2 cases, to build up, to set up an association as a first way to start the energy community. So we are on this process of making the association for now. We did as well some first debate about how do we finance it. If we have to use crowdfunding, crowdlending, go for a loan to a bank, or if we just have some shares that people will pay. And for now, given the amount of money, that is not that much in the end, people were saying that they are happy to join and to pay 100, 500, 1,000, a bit more, maybe in 2 or 3 times if needed, but it shouldn't be the biggest issue to finance the investment needed for the energy community in this case. So basically now we are still on this process, starting to build up this community. But I think we could already share some learnings. Basically, we see the energy communities as an opportunity to speed up the energy transition at the local level, and there is a clear need for support from the local authorities. But if you are a local authority, as I say, we need to make some previous steps to be sure that we can then install solar panel and provide some incentive. And we don't want to be the barrier as a public administration to the development of this community. You better team up with political leadership, socio-technical support. We were working with local energy cooperative to build up these 2 processes, and as well with key actors in the neighborhood or in the energy sector. The head of one of the community is the head of the neighborhood association, for instance. Careful as well with communication. It's a social innovation process, so you better take care of not promising too much at the beginning, because then it's hard to fulfill the expectation of the people, because there is a lot of expectation. If you're aware about all the campaign at the European level for promoting energy communities, it's a very interesting topic for now. But then there is still a lot to I think for me, from the process we're doing, it's like a mid long-term perspective. We can have the community build up within 6 months, 1 year, but it's already a 6 months project. So between 1 year and 2 years to build up the community should be the time needed. And just to conclude a bit the way we develop our roadmap. So we are still working on this roadmap, as I was saying, since the Prosum project, with the different efforts we did to remove barriers. And now we are starting these communities. And what we expect is to be able to take advantage of European funds for next generation, for instance, funds, to really scale up and why not be able to spread energy communities in the city of Valencia by 2030 and reach one of the targets of the city for now, which is energy democracy in the city of Valencia. And for sure, to do that, we will rely as well on a European project like Matchup and other projects that I'm mentioning, like the Tomorrow or Power project. That's all from my side. Thanks a lot.
Can you go ahead? Thank you so much. I remind you to use the chat box so as to ask some questions to the panelists, and at the end of the webinar they will answer your questions. Now let's move to the third topic in the agenda that is very relevant, very interesting, is right to energy. In this topic, to deal with it, we will have three different speakers: Victoria Pellicer from Las Naves, Corentin Girard, again from Valencia Clima Energia, and Rebecca Lucas from Cabeloce. So, Victoria, you can start.
Thank you very much. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can.
Yes? Okay. So thank you very much. I'm very glad to be here. Thanks for the organizers to invite us.
Well, sorry, but is your screen with a thank you slide? Because if not...
Sorry? Okay.
No.
Sorry.
Okay.
Thank you. I apologize for that. Thank you. Okay, so as Ernesto said, this is a collective presentation. This third slot will be with Corentin, with Rebecca, and with me. I'm Victoria Pellicer from Las Naves. I'm going to introduce this presentation, and I will give you very key ideas about what we understand when we call for right to energy. And then we will see two experiences, one with Corentin and one with Rebecca, two experiences that can contribute to achieve this right to energy. These experiences in some way are related with our Matchup project, but at the end I will also show you very briefly, I will name other experiences beyond Matchup project. Okay, so to start, our starting point is understanding warmth, cooling, lighting, and all energy power appliances as essential services that all of us, all citizens, we need in order to live a dignified life. This is a very consensus definition from the European Energy Poverty Observatory. So when energy poverty occurs, when energy poverty happens, when in a household is unable to achieve these basic essential services, these warm, cooling, lighting, or energy appliances. So at that moment is when we say that the household is in energy poverty situation. And which is the cause? Well, it's a combination of different causes. It's a multidimensional problem. As you know, poverty is a very multidimensional problem, so energy poverty as well. Here we brought some causes: high energy expenditure, low household incomes, inefficient buildings and appliances, or specific needs from the household. These are some of the causes. But the most important here I would like to remark is that it's true that maybe household has a little responsibility because maybe they could use more efficient energy efficiency practices, but energy poverty is mainly related with structural causes. Okay, causes beyond household, causes related with our energy model. How do we fix the energy prices? Which is the governance of the energy model? Which is the level of learning that citizens have related energy, and so on. So this is also important to remark. We prefer to talk about right to energy. We think it's a more powerful concept. This is why I brought here the definitions from Right to Energy Coalition. It's a European coalition, open. So those of you who don't know it, I encourage you to visit the webpage because there's a lot of information there. And the data says that 1 in 4 households in the European Union is unable to achieve these energy basic services. So it's in energy policy and energy poverty. So it's a lot of people, it's a big data, and we recognize that it's responsible of all of us, it's a multi-stakeholders responsible, but especially we point out to policy because we need energy, we need policies with a right to energy approach in order to fight against energy poverty. So the key ideas are these. To remind it, to sum up, energy, understanding energy as a basic human right, as we understand health, as we understand education, as we understand food. So understanding energy also as a basic human right everyone should have. It's a question of vital for social justice, but it's also vital for fighting against climate crisis because, as I said, it's very related with energy system. Access to energy can be, honestly, can be a matter of life and death because we know lots of cases about that. So it's a very, very important problem. And of course, it's a condition for living a dignified life. So a lot of things can be done in order to achieve this right to energy. Here I brought like these 6 packets. I'm not going to go in depth in each of one because we don't have time for that, but it was just to give you a big picture about all the different actions we can do. Of course, we need changes on regulation. We need changes for banning disconnections, for regulating prices, for social tariffs, and so on. We need to do work in networks, in coordination with all actors. We need work at local level, at regional level, at state level, and so on. But today I would like to, I think we could go more in depth with these 3 packets, because in the first one, now I will give the floor to Corentin because he will explain us what they do from the energy offices. They do a lot of things more than these 2 about intervention and training, but they especially do, they can explain us the work they do in intervention and in training in order to fight against energy poverty and to promote the right to energy. And then it will be Rebecca who will call us about innovative schemes to finance energy poverty. Thank you very much. So,
can you go to the next one?
Yes.
Yes, thank you for the introduction. Actually, it's a perfect introduction, as you were as well working on the strategy for the building of the fuel poverty strategy of Valencia. In our case, I will present some elements we are doing from the Valencia Energy Office. As a quick introduction, what is the Energy Office of Valencia? So it's what is called a one-stop shop for the energy transition in Valencia. And more than this, it's a place, a team, and a project. It's located in one of the neighborhoods that has been identified as a high level of fuel poverty. The small map you have on the right-hand side was the product of a survey made by Victoria and the team from the university to first map the energy poverty in Valencia and have a clear view on what can be done to address this issue at the city level. And then the Energy Office came to give some answer with a team of technicians, with a social worker, an architect, an engineer, and educational experts, and the project to work on different areas. Today we'll just focus on energy poverty, but it's as well a way to address renewables, as I was saying before, rehabilitation, and as well to work with the school in this area to foster the energy transition. So let's go in more details on the right to energy unit of the Energy Office. First, let me introduce you Chris on the bottom left hand side. She's a social worker of the Energy Office. She is in charge of most of the tasks that we were mentioned and Vicky mentioned before in terms of individual assessments, training, workshops, mentoring program we are running from the office. And we are as well developing some other document like a guide, a practical guide to address energy poverty at the city level. Or recently we did the Right to Energy Week with different sessions, trainings, workshops to really make the case and support people to go out of fuel poverty. That was the main idea of this unit. Next one. When we talk about individual assessment, what are we talking about? So people can really come to the office and ask basically what can they do if they can't afford to pay their bill at the end of the month. So then we talk about social tariff, emergency response to avoid as well energy supply to be cut, and as well some payment. Very important here, we don't do everything from the office. We work hand by hand with the social services of the city council to be sure that fuel poverty is addressed within the context of poverty as a bigger issue than only fuel poverty. Next one. Thanks. Then we do as well some workshops with two kind of publics: key professionals, so social workers, all the ones that are working in the city of Valencia, but as well energy workers, so that people really know either from the social or the technical side what is fuel poverty and what can be done to address it. As well, we do workshops with users of social services and social NGOs of the neighborhood. Here you have a picture with our workshop Energy for all women in this case, because it's 6 women that are in a small group working in a way to fix the problem of energy poverty. Next one. Then we go to the in-depth mentoring program when we have a 3-step process. With first, when we identify the household that is really in a critical situation, we do a socio-economic survey and visual check in his house. Then we organize an individual intervention plan, and we give him an energy efficiency kits adapted to its need and install at home. And then we do a follow-up survey and evaluation to be sure that it has been effective. Thanks. Next one. Just some result, but I will go quick as I have not a lot of time. But who is going to the office? Most of the users are women, a range of 36 to 60 years old people, single household, people unemployed that have not a lot of incomes, and where the energy bill represents a third of the income of the household. And some results that I was mentioning a bit before as well, saving up to 300, 500 euros, depending on the kind of intervention, but there is a lot of savings to do, what will give as well the reason for the work that Rebecca will present just afterwards. Next one. Key learnings from our experience. So fuel poverty is a social issue, not only a technical one. So bring a social worker in your team, it's a key message. It's not only for engineers and technical staff. Team up with social services since the beginning. Don't go in the street looking for fuel poor people, but look for social services that are already working with people in this kind of situation. And engage with local organization too, social NGO, housing, and all the other actors linked to fuel poverty. What next? Well, we want to replicate the energy office as it has been done in other cities like Barcelona. Work more with the social services. We have still a lot to do on that. Develop right to energy community within different projects that I think Vicky will mention afterwards. And then work on how to finance in a sustainable way this service. For now, it's a grant paid by the city council, but we want to find a sustainable way to finance it. And that's why Rebecca will now explain what they are investigating on a social impact bond. That's all from my side. Thanks a lot.
We can hear you, Rebecca. No, we can't hear you.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you very much. Hello to everybody. I will try to be very brief, and there will be questions and answers at the end if you have any doubts about this presentation. So the aim of this presentation is to present the social impact bonds as a financial instrument to scale up interventions to fight energy poverty. So following and just setting the scene of we have been so far, Victoria was telling us that energy poverty is a major challenge in the European Union, and also there is the fight of the right to energy. So we have to get this right to energy. Then there are in many different cities, and in Valencia is one of these. There are local actions that are targeted to combat energy poverty, and this is extremely important, as Corentin was showing what they are doing at Valencia Clima and Energía, and also with the Energy Office. So these interventions to fight energy poverty, they're usually well spread over Europe, also in Spain, in Valencia. They give good results, but there is a problem that most of them are limited in scope. They involve households, but usually the numbers of the households involved is reduced, is small. So they cannot grow in scope, and they cannot have huge effects. So the idea is that can these interventions to fight energy poverty be scaled up, and if can we move from these small pilot intervention to bigger ones, and how can they be financed? Because usually these are public interventions, but the question is there a role for the private sector, for private investment? So the idea is that there are new alternative financing models like social impact bonds that can be the answer. And this is what we are going to see now. So what are these new instruments? What are these social impact bonds? So the social impact bonds is, let's say, it's a new form of public-private collaboration that allows private investors to provide money for public projects that deliver social outcomes, okay? So the important thing is that we have private investors that are going to give upfront capital to launch or to expand innovative services. If the expected services, if the expected benefits of that project are achieved, the investors will receive back their money plus a rate of return, and the commissioner, who is usually a public authority, will only pay for the service for that intervention if the project is successful, meaning if the expected results are achieved. So let's say that these instruments are not, they are called social impact bonds, but they are not a bond in the sense of the financial term. It's just a contract. And the important thing is it is a contract. It's called pay for success. You just pay if the intervention is successful. Next slide, please. So what we have here, we have a picture which is rather different to what we are used to when delivering services to vulnerable people. We have different actors in social impact bonds. We have first the commissioner. The commissioner is usually a public authority who wants to offer a service to a target population, which usually it's a vulnerable population. We have investors who will provide and who will anticipate the money. These investors are not, let's say, they are called impact investors. So they are people who care, yes, for financial returns, but also for social returns. So not only finance is important, but also the social outcomes are important. Then we have a service provider, which is usually an NGO who will deliver a service to a target population in need. And there will be an independent evaluator. The figure of the independent evaluator is fundamental, because we said that the commissioner is going to pay back the investor if the project is successful. So there will be someone who will say whether the project has reached its objectives or not. And this is the independent evaluator. Then, since social impact bonds are complex instruments, in some cases there should be an intermediary. So you see that this is another ecosystem with different actors that they will have to work and to cooperate and collaborate together. Next slide, please. And what are the advantages and the disadvantages of these new instruments? As we have said, and the most important thing, a public authority can dispose of money to fund programs and projects and interventions to improve the life of the citizens. They can transfer the risk to the investor. Why? Because they are only paid if the project is successful. So the investor will have the risk and will lose his or her money if the project is not successful. So this is very interesting because it allows for testing new programs, but also for scaling up projects that have proven to work. Then there is also efficiency in the management of public funds, of course, the promotion of social innovation, and something very important, which is the rigor in the provision of services, because there is also the measurement of the impact. There is the fostering of the evaluation culture within the public administration. These are not all advantages. It has some disadvantages. Let's say that these instruments are very, very, very new. So they are of course unknown and they are complex. They also require the collaboration of different actors. As we have seen in the previous slide, we have different actors that have to collaborate and work together. Also, the SIB has a cost to implement this instrument. It's complex and it's also costly, and in some cases, depending on the ideology, the return on investment to private capital when talking about social interventions may create some perplexities. Next slide, please. Just so what do we want to do? We want to the question is, can we link social impact bonds and energy poverty? So the idea is that the social impact bonds, they do offer an opportunity to invest in prevention, right? Avoiding that energy poverty becomes a more serious and a chronic problem. So it will also be an opportunity to have capital to finance these interventions, and the money will be returned only in the case the intervention is successful. This is important now to tap into private money. Why? Because we have that public resources are scarce, and they are also the resources that we have are competing demands, because we have the COVID crisis. So money is not available because there are many things that the public sector has to take care of. So it could be an idea to be able to tap into private sector funds. Of course, as we have said, there is a transfer of the risk of the intervention and the escalation to the investor. So the public authority will not lose anything, and it will give the possibility to move from pilot projects to larger projects. So it will increase the number of households, the number of people attended, and it will increase the impact of the intervention. And once the validity has been tested, the validity of these interventions, they can be included in the public service portfolio, because the public authority, they know that the interventions will be successful. And also, since the SIB will also create a good space for monitoring the intervention and help projects keep on track and encourage transparency and accountability, because you are measuring continuously. Okay, just to end up, next slide, please. What have we done with the SIBs? We are developing a pre-feasibility study on social impact bonds. So we have started developing the business case. We have defined the target population, the inclusion and exclusion criteria, the indicators to measure success. We have worked with Corentin and his colleagues from Valencia, Clima y Energía and the Energy Office on the definition of a set of indicators to be gathered in the households. Of course, there is a theory of change that is behind this scheme, and this has also been elaborated, and we have made some simulation on the benefits and costs. And last but not least, we have presented this idea to Valencia Social Service Department. It's to be seen as an opportunity to scale the intervention in energy poverty that the Energy Office is carrying out, and then if it's successful, it can be taking into consideration to include them in their service current portfolio. I think this is all. I think I took some more time. I apologize, and I leave the floor to Victoria.
Thank you very much, Rebecca. Can you hear me? Yes. Thank you very much, Rebecca and Corentin, because you both showed us in more detail two experiences what is doing from the Valencia Energy Office to fight for the right to energy and how the social impact bonds can contribute to scale up these interventions. So now, very, very briefly, I'm going to name just other initiatives, other experiences where citizens in actions has been really important to promote this right to energy approach. The first thing I would like to share with you is what happened here in Spain. Letting you know that the concept of energy poverty was pretty unknown before 2015. It did exist, of course, but it was not so popular. No one knew what energy poverty was, and it was thanks to citizens' mobilizations that happened in different cities at the same time in different cities of the countries. Citizens' mobilizations run by green movements, housing movements, civil society, social NGOs, social organizations, and so on. They denounced the fact that energy poverty exists, and they achieved that the media caught that attention, and at that moment the concept became more popular, and it at the end it gets into the local public agenda, and now from 2016 there are local policies, as those that we have already explained, that are doing things and developing policy against energy poverty. This is one example. For example, this is other example. This is a group we have, a local group here in Valencia. We call Right to Energy Group from the group Conecta Energía. All of us from this webinar are involved in this group, and it's a multidisciplinary group where we try to share learnings, to learn together, to generate new proposals, and well, at the end to get coordinated all local actors who are doing things or are interested in terms of right to energy. This is an example of one local alliance. For example, this is another example of one initiative from Barcelona, very popular, which is called the Alliance Against Energy Poverty. And here what they do a lot of things, but one of the most important things that they do is that they do collective advising meetings, which are meetings where affected people in situation of energy poverty, come to that meeting and explain their problem, and other affected people try to give them or find together a solution. So it's a way of looking looking collectively for solution and to moving from an individual problem to a collective problem. What happened also in these meetings is that people get empowered. People move from the situation of victim to the situation of affected, and people recognize that it's a right what they have and what they are not being able to have that right. So they don't have to ask for a favor, they have to ask for right. And in this initiative, what people say is that it's also a kind of therapy, because you know that it's not your own problem, that it's not fault of you. So it's useful for feelings of anxiety, of depression, and so on. And they see that it's a more open problem and collective problem. And again, I want to remark that here they learn that the causes are more structural, and also if we all together get organized, as Citizen in Actions, the title of this seminar, of this webinar, is we all together get organized, we can achieve, we can go further. And to finish that, just to mention a project that my colleagues also had already mentioned. This is the web-based project. It had just started, so we don't have a web page still, but here in this project, we also want to do a lot of different things that we have mentioned in this webinar. Also audits, empowerment activities, collective advisements, campaigns, and so on. It's a new European project. We are going to develop 6 pilots in 6 different countries. So here, all the partners involved in this major project are also involved in this. One of the partners involved in this webinar are also involved in this project. So, well, if someone wants to to keep on track of this project, here is the name, and you can write me and we can give you more information. And just to sum up and to close all this third slot of this webinar, remark the idea that energy is a basic human right and it's vital for social justice. And today we have wanted to show you some different initiatives like the energy communities, the energy office, the citizens approach, the collective assessments, the social impact bonds, and others that are important to promote this right to energy. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Victoria, and the rest of the speakers. Now I invite you, all the speakers, to turn on your cameras and to open a short period of questions and answers, because unfortunately we are running out of time, but at least we will try to answer briefly. Please be concise about the questions that we have from the audience. First, for example, for Corentin, we have a question about the impact of COVID pandemic in the constitution of energy communities. Has it had an impact or not?
Okay, thanks for the question. What is the impact? So it makes it more difficult for sure, because what we were doing were workshops to run the participatory process, and we started with a presential when we ended up with virtual workshops. And we clearly see a difference when last month we did a new workshop presential and people were just much more motivated. So it has an impact, delayed and it make it harder. Then it could be seen as an opportunity because people had maybe more time, they were more at home. So yes, it could be as well an advantage.
Thank you for your answer. Now we have another question, in this case for Rebecca. What was the social output to be achieved to have the initial fund? What was the social output to be achieved to have the initial fund paid back with a profit or not?
If I understand the question, what was the social output to be achieved? Okay, for instance, in this kind of interventions, when we have interventions on energy poverty, like for instance, the one that the Energy Office is doing, we have the intervention, which is an energy audit, going to the household, giving energy advice, giving an energy efficiency kit, and also training, right? So the idea is that what is the social output of this intervention? To have an improvement in the situation of the households. For instance, to have their bills or their expenditure in energy bills reduced. So the social output in this case of intervention will be, for instance, to have less money spent on energy bills. If this is achieved, for instance, let's say, if imagine that the idea is that to have that 90% of the households that receive an intervention have a reduction on their energy bills of 30%. This is something that we can set up. So this is the social output, and the investors are going to get their money back if this is achieved. So if 90% of all the households have had their bills, energy bills, reduced by 30%. And this is how they will get their money back, plus a rate of return. I just want to make a precision, like these investors are not like the Wall Street super investors. They are social investors. They are called impact investors. So they are investors that, of course, they give their private money and they will hope for a return. But this return is like not the market returns, are lower returns, because as we said, they are also caring for social outcomes, and the social outcomes is an improvement in the situation of the households that are in vulnerable situations suffering from energy poverty. I don't know whether this answers.
Thank you so much. Yes, it is. Last question in this case for Barbara. You have mentioned the Matchup Award. How did you manage to involve the students? Because this award, as far as I know, is mainly for them. How
Yes,
did you do that?
Yes, exactly. It is mainly for them. And actually, as mentioned, one of the key aspects of our strategy was precisely to rely on relevant stakeholders in the local area. So in this case, we cooperated with the Polytechnic University of Valencia, and in particular with the Instituto Ideas, who yearly organize a couple of editions of prizes for students precisely. And so we proposed them and managed together to participate to this initiative with our special prize, specifically targeted to the field of action of Matchup. In this sense, also one of the project partners is a research group from the Polytechnic University, ITEAM Research Group, and they as well facilitated the interaction, the dialogue, and the contact with the institution.
Thank you so much. So I'm afraid that we don't have more time for questions. So first, I would like to give to express my gratitude to the speakers, to the panelists. And we have had a very interesting webinar focused on three main topics: the citizen engagement approach, then the energy communities, and we finished with the right to energy and energy poverty. So with this, we open a set of webinars, and we will go on with others in the near future, and I will inform you by our social networks, newsletter, and so on. So I invite you to be connected with us. And to finish with, thank you all the attendees for being with us in this first webinar, and have a nice day. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a nice day.
Bye.
Sorry. Should we stay?